Have you been struggling to find your way forward? And perhaps you have days that you feel like you're moving through mud and you just can't seem to get your bearing or ease up on the struggle to go forward. It's times like these that we need to have a little boost to our energy antenna. And I want to introduce you today to Tom O'Shea, who is part of an organizing committee for a nonprofit organization called Marathon Jam. Hello, Tom.
Hello, Michelle. Pleased to be here.
And we also have with us Colin MacLeod, who has been a partner with me on music and movement. And Colin is actually not in Scotland right now, but is actually sitting beside Tom in North Carolina. Hi, Colin.
Hello, Michelle. Hello, Michelle.
I want to just bring a quote forward as we start into this podcast from the president of the foundation. And this is I should say this is the original founder of the Jam, John Santa. And he says, quite simply, the mission of Marathon Jam is to make life better for injured soldiers, first responders, and their families. We use music to help and to heal, and it's the core of who we are and what we do. And Tom is going to share more about this special program and the kinds of projects that they fundraise for. And we're also going to talk about the program Colin and I work on, which is unwinding trauma and building resiliency. And you may have seen Colin several times on the podcast. If you haven't, then you can go back, check out some of those podcast episodes where we've used the power of music. And Colin has also now certified in sound healing, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that means in relation to some of the activities that are going to be a part of the Jam. For today's discussion, we need to set the stage for what kind of tea we're going to have today. And both of these wonderful gentlemen have just come in from doing a performance, so they didn't put the tea on. So I'm going to share the tea that I have today. And I have chosen honeybee. And this is just like a friend, actually, which is because it chose itself to be here too. But it has this opportunity to get people feeling comfortable because of the idea of the honey. It was first created to accompany a book, and this is what I also want to bring forward for those people listening, is this is a free resource that you can access. This is called BioEnergetic Essentials, and it's written about a very simple introductory self-care tools that you can use, and it has graphics in it, great for kids, and it explains how to do the different activities. You can get that on a website called CanBeWell.org. And you can just, on the main page, you can just click on the button and you can download the book. I want that to be in everybody's hands because as we go forward with our conversation today, there are so many simple tools available for people who are in need of help finding their way back to wellness and finding the way to heal. And that's a great way to start. And the honeybee tea is a part of that. But what we're bringing to the conversation today is the intention that's on the package and two of the herbs that are in the tea. So the affirmation is, feel the boost to your spirit and the playfulness and joy that transpires. A zest to life is encouraged with each sip. And as we start talking about Marathon Jam and all the amazing work that's being done by musicians reaching out to veterans and to first responders, this is what happens in a room full of people who are engaging with music. And I thought this was a great way for us to get started. I want to highlight the power of vanilla. And a lot of people know vanilla because we put it in our baking and we love the smell of it. And so as those cookies are baking, it's one of those things that just really makes you feel good. And as I was saying today, this tea is like a hug. It is. What happens when we smell that vanilla is our olfactory system, so our sense of smell, excites. And there's a quick relaxation, a tranquility, a bit of joy, and a little bit of love all sprinkled in with the flavor and the smell of vanilla. So this happens before you've tasted the tea, and it means you've gone back into the hypothalamus and you've actually started calming the nervous system. And that's really important for anybody who's on that road for recovery. The second ingredient I want to talk about is hibiscus. And hibiscus is a lift for our soul. It's a lightness which can transpire, and it's just a flower that we're adding into the tea blend. It provides emotional healing, self-love, and inner peace. As we enter into this discussion today, you can see how the tea could be an ally, how bringing those two ingredients together can support. And to seal that, I know you two don't have a mug in your hands, but what I did with mine
Oh,
is I put it into my fundraising wine glass.
oh,
This is from an event we used to have called Kaylee by the Bow, and this is from 2000. But I thought then you could see the color of the tea, which is just incredible. And the thing that we can engage with in this color is just bringing a little bit in. So cheers to the two of you. Thank you for
goodness.
coming.
Thank you very much, Michelle.
And I'm
Excellent.
going to do cheers to the people who are listening to this podcast and hopefully are going to find these resources and bring them in for their own care. So to the best. All right. Oh, and the honey and the vanilla just go so beautifully together. All right. So I've set the stage. The intention is there. I do that on purpose so that it's a healing session while people listen. And now let's start in. So, Tom, can you share a little bit about what it is to be a part of Marathon Jam, where it's located, and how people get involved with it?
Really. And I must say, Michelle, every time we talk, I just feel better just listening to you talk, and the positive energy that you project.
Thank
Um,
you.
Thanks for having us here too. And Marathon Jam, as you mentioned, was founded by a gentleman out of Chapel Hill, North Carolina, John Santa. And it began over 15 years ago, and it's been a collection of musicians coming together to try and go beyond just the music and do some good, with some of the skills that we have. And so Marathon Jam got its real framework because it involves an annual 12-hour marathon of playing, where musicians come together and they play continuously from 12 noon until 12 midnight, typically at an American Legion post in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, as the main jam. But in fact, over the 15 years, we've fostered other jams in other locations, including all the way down in Baghdad, where, during some of the Iraq War, there was a satellite marathon jam happening there with some of the soldiers from North Carolina that were down there. And so they had a group called the Baghdad Boys, and we used to, connect with them. But the whole purpose is around raising funds, raising money to help some other charities that directly provide services to injured warriors and first responders. And so there's an organization called Fisher House that's been our primary focus over these years, which provides housing for families that are coming at military hospitals around the country, coming to visit their injured or loved ones there free of charge. And so we've over the 15 years, we've raised over $500,000 that we've primarily been donating to Fisher House. And the last few years, we've expanded our scope, and so we've included a camp organization, summer camp organization called Camp Corral, which focuses on providing a positive summer camp experience for children of fallen warriors, as well as a first responder group called peer support, which is directed on first responders. So our organization looks to um, um, collect funds, and you can learn more about it at www.marathonjam.org. That will take you to our website, and you'll see many, many pictures, of previous jams and our bringing in decorated military heroes and first responders and actually wrapping them with quilts that are made by the Quilts of Honor women's team, and our ability to give them some recognition. The other primary program that we've been doing is our VA hospital volunteer program, where on a biweekly basis we go into a few military or VA hospitals, and Colin yesterday joined with me at a a veterans home, a specialized nursing home, where we provide music. And you talk about impact and transformation. I mean, the just seeing these people have given so much of their lives, to help our freedom, and our ability to touch them back has been pretty profound. But our organization, if you look at our tagline, so to speak, which is the underwriting purpose for what we believe in, it's all around curitas per musica, which is Latin for healing through music. And we believe in that very strongly, and are happy to collaborate with you and Colin, and in envisioning a project next April that you'll talk about, I think, further.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow. I didn't realize the scope and the amount of fundraising that's been done already, and what an amazing impact.
Yes, and our musicians do this out of their own passion for music, but also for, their interest in giving back. And when we go in, particularly into the hospitals and to VA hospitals and clinics and homes, it's um, we get more out of it than even the residents that are there. And we have some really profound stories. You talk about stories. One of our board members, in fact, when John Santa first was going into the VA hospital in Durham, visiting the ninth floor, which is the psych ward, and one of our board members was there, and in a very PTSD, depressed, almost catatonic kind of state, and over a period of time through music, he came back. It's almost a Lazarus like experience, and all the way to the point where Colin's been jamming with him several times this week, and he's a champion for what we do.
And the stories that that Bob tells as well behind the tunes, absolutely amazing.
Yes.
Mhm. And I specifically described at the beginning the energy antenna,
Yes.
because music does that, and I'm realizing we have these little switches inside of us that music accesses. It's similar to acupuncture. You put that acupuncture needle in, they would spin it to get it to spin on the borders correctly, but it becomes an antenna. And really, what happens with music is those antennas, we can access so many parts of the body. And your story of that wonderful gentleman being able to come out of a catatonic state and be able to find himself somewhere within and be inspired, it's just phenomenal.
We had another experience just yesterday. We're at this veterans home, 93-year-old veteran there sitting in the back. We started to play the music, and I don't know what went on in his body and his head, but there were a couple of ladies that were in the back, and he got up, raised his hand over to one of them, asking her to dance, and he danced almost the whole time. And he's 93 years old, and the level of movement, and the joy on his face were just incredible. And he came up afterwards, and tears in his eyes, for having had the opportunity to have that experience.
At one point, it was like, I remember being up in Cape Breton at one of the dances, and you know how they have the minute where somebody gets up and does something special. Well, I saw that on the dance floor from this 93-year-old gentleman when he was dancing with one of the ladies. It's like a
Four different ladies, by the way.
Four different. Yes.
Filled his dance card.
Oh my
Lovely.
gosh.
Oh my goodness. So, Colin, I think what's really interesting with musicians and dancers, it happens too, but not as much as musicians, because as soon as that instrument comes out, then this transition takes place. So you travel around the world, Colin, and you're pulling that fiddle out on top of mountains, in a plane, over top of, I think, Mount Everest. You know, you've been into all these lovely locations taking your music. Can you tell me a little bit about what it feels like to have a gift of being a musician, and then what happens for you when you have these beautiful experiences?
Well, it brings people together, and the seeing things from different perspectives, being in a place, and it's really that community, that idea of community, and the fun, seeing the smiles on people's faces, and something that everyone can be involved in really energizes and inspires me. And I think about when people first came over from Scotland and Ireland to the US, to North America, and the idea of music and voice and movement, and just that recharge, that we can do it. Things are possible. Things are possible, and we definitely saw that today at the school. Everyone was up doing movement, Michelle, music and movement, and you know, like right from the tallest to just all across the instruments, and it was just lovely. And for me, that that energizes me.
And I'd like to bring in here some of the research that comes out of the 1930s and 1940s. And some of you may have heard me say this already, but I think it's important for this conversation and where we want to take the project that we're working on. And that is that when you decide to engage with somebody for the intention to heal, the enzymes within yourself and the enzymes within the person you decide to engage with both activate. And they don't activate in a specific way, they activate for the priority of the person. So when they go to measure them, it's not that the enzymes all start up in a certain way. They start up for what that person needs. And I'm fascinated by how nature can be so brilliant to know exactly what it's going to need and make that transformation, but that all we require is that intention with each other that we're here to help heal. It's amazing. And when I think about what music can do, and it's hard to have that conversation or you're a little bit shy, but if you can pick up your instrument and somebody says, "Oh, you have a fiddle, tell me about your fiddle, tell me about the bow, tell me about play me a song," all of a sudden that conversation is ignited. Yeah. All right. So now that we have that in place, I wanted to bring a little bit forward, Colin, about the sound therapy training that you've completed so that we can start to set the stage for some of the things that's going to be coming to this special project.
Well, so I did some training across in Spain around voice. So the idea about vocal healing, the idea about bringing the voice to the table, the voice is an instrument. And then, Michelle, I'm working with you on Touch for Health as well. And the idea of just bringing different elements together, like a cake. So the idea about music, movement, voice, art, just what that can do, because people hear things in different ways. And they talk about sound journeys, the experience of being somewhere. Like, for example, the combination of voice and music, when that combination was there, yesterday, I saw Tom, the 93-year-old gentleman, was just, he was so light on his feet. He was so light on his feet. And the idea of having fun, the idea of relaxing and having fun, is just something special. And that's a journey. That's part of the journey.
Right. I had a conversation with one of the ladies that was at the show you and I did last month for a Celtic Colors International Festival for the community event we did music of the landscape. And so in that show, the musicians were interacting with the artwork that we had chosen, which was most of it was landscape. Some was photography, some was painting. And what she said was really interesting because she'd heard you play for Tai Chi, and she'd heard you play a fiddle tune, but she said she just had no idea how impactful your music was going to be while the artwork was sitting up on the stage in front. And even though she could just look at the artwork and think there's artwork and you're going to play, she said there was this sweetness that came out of the music that just lifted her up in a way she'd never experienced with music before. And I thought that was so interesting because she's been to all kinds of shows, done all kinds of different things as an audience member. And I wanted to bring that forward because when people ask, how does that program that you're doing work? We've layered up so many parts that people have in their day, and we've layered them in a way that's in a healing way. It's so transformative. And I wanted to share that with you because it was pretty exciting to hear how she received your music.
That is wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
Michelle, that's one of the things that I've found so fascinating about the work that you do and Colin does, because it's a full multisensory experience in terms of your ability to bring all of those, even taste, and visual and auditory and, touch, together it's special.
Mm. It was one of the other shows that we did. There was a gentleman that was listening to the music being played, and in that one, Colin was playing with the harpist, and Bradley was on piano, and they were playing. And this gentleman turned to me because Colin asked everybody to hit a tone as they were going with the music, and he looked at me and he said, "What did you put in the tea?" And it was because he'd never sung before, and he kind of resisted. But then I talked about how these herbs influence each other, and what do you taste, etc. And then Colin started playing, and the tones started happening, and eventually he was like, "I need to do this too," and he jumped in. It was just fascinating, and to see the surprise on his face of how good it felt. And I think people don't realize that maybe they're only using one sense when they're experiencing something. Like you go to hear music, you're listening. And then your eyes wander off and you get lost in a dream thought of what that music reminds you of. But you can just bring it into such a whole, more embodied experience when all those other senses have an opportunity to ignite as well. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the groundwork you've laid for the upcoming event. We're looking at April of 2025, and Marathon Jan doing something new and different with the Unwinding Trauma Building Resiliency program. Tom, do you want to lay a little groundwork for it?
Oh yeah, no, we're really excited about this, and Colin and I had opportunity to do some further collaboration with the rest of the Marathon Jam or additional members of the Marathon Jam board. But we're looking at a weekend event that would be held in probably Greensboro, North Carolina area that would focus on this idea of healing through music and movement, and bringing that together, a set of really talented practitioners like yourself and Colin with the unwinding trauma part of the experience, and in addition to that, we have some other professionals that are doing other aspects of providing healing and using music, and even music in corporate kind of settings. And then thirdly, we've been collaborating with the music therapist specialist from the Veterans Administration. And so it's still under construction, and we're still fine tuning what's the right audience for us to try and incorporate. But We're planning to try and have all of that resolved by end of December so that we can begin communicating and promoting the event. But we're really excited about it and already have some potential sponsors that could help us, make this a reality. And the final thing I'll say is that we're not looking at this as just a one-time event. We're looking at this as more of a beginning, and it may become an annual, summit or symposium on the healing through music and movement. And so, but we realize that when you start something, you can't outrun your headlights and, try and, do something that's manageable. But thanks for the opportunity to talk about that.
Mm-hmm. And I think what's key too is you're right. It's that this will be a start and an opening. And the other piece from the perspective of my own work is being able to take something like the BioEnergetic Essentials book and put it in the hands of people now. And then if they start to play with these tools now, what does that mean for them by April?
Oh yeah, excellent. Excellent thought. Yes.
And if they start to play with the tools a little bit, then they can start to understand how simple it is to make a transformation. And then, as I've just been talking about, being able to layer all of these pieces together, their experience once they get to an event like what we'll be putting together, they have this opportunity to really come in with a different viewpoint, come in with an open mind for something's going to be different. I don't know what it's going to be, but I want to be open to be able to understand it and receive it. And I think that's another important piece too, because we've had lots of programs that have tried their best, and some people succeed very well with them, but there are people who fall through the cracks who don't get that access. And if the program that we've put together provides that space, that all those senses wake up, and that was the piece that was missing for someone, awesome. If they can find that way forward, then that's great. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you.
To explain a little bit about, because it's been fun trying to have conversations with the team that's coming together, trying to share the kind of information of what do we do. And so Colin and I have been playing and doing movement together for the last 2 years, online mostly.
It's absolutely, time is flying, Michelle. Time is absolutely flying. It's quite amazing.
Yeah. And I think to explain a little bit about what people can experience come April, Colin, do you want to talk a little bit about the transformation of your playing as a result of matching it to the movement patterns that I do?
With Michelle's, I'd like to ask our audience if anyone's ever been in a swing, a garden swing, and you know how you go up and then you come back, and you come up and then you come back. And there's a fluidity to that flow. So with Michelle's movements, there's very much a fluidity to the flow. So I'm working on matching. It's like the sea coming in. It's like watching seaweed under the sea, just moving around. It's just doing it with the minimum of effort and the maximum of ease. And that is what's happening to my playing. And I'm seeing that in playing by ear. I'm seeing that in the different environments. Playing, being able to join in with Tom and Tom's group and just what they're doing, being able to go to an Iris session and just blend something together. And so what I'm seeing is more of a flow in my playing, more of an ease. And one of the most beautiful examples, which which Tom and myself, so I asked Tom 5 minutes before we were leaving the house, could I have your help, Tom, for with the school kids this morning with the orchestra? And what it was one of my favorite tunes is MacArthur's Road. So MacArthur's Road is in a key of E major. And we were, before Tom and myself were playing earlier on the week with this band, and Tom was saying, I mentioned about the chords. This was a conversation from the progressive chords for the unwinding trauma, and Tom was saying, oh gosh, that's the blues, Colin, that's the blues. And all of a sudden, so we got together with everyone, and I'm playing MacArthur's Road, and all of a sudden there's this beautiful blues coming in, just this flow. And so what I was doing was then changing the way that I was playing to blend with MacArthur's Road. And I think that blending, Michelle, playing with you, playing, supporting your movement, the idea about music supporting, playing a supporting role, a nurturing role, and the collaboration, and that is helping me. So all of a sudden, MacArthur's Road has this blues feel, and that's what everyone heard this morning. So hopefully that puts things in context.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I wanted to be able to have that description because the playing has really transformed for us from, yes, you have a written tune that somebody did, but then you have this room full of people, and maybe they're moving, maybe they're sitting in a chair listening, but they all bring their energy to the room. And so your playing is not going to be the same as it would be with the room tomorrow, and the magic that can be created. Yeah.
I will tell you that the 20 players, the high school orchestra, their playing will always be now influenced by what Colin did with them, getting them up, moving around while they were playing, shaking their leg, raising their eyebrows, and creating a liberation, a freedom. I mean, it was almost like unlocking them, from just being, very stationary in every aspect into being much more fluid. So it was
Yeah.
we kind of witnessed it happening this morning.
Mm-hmm. And the idea of people putting something of themselves into what they do, that flavor, like the movement, there's a flow to the movement, and people do those movements in different ways, and they've got their own flow and the chance to experiment with that, to play with that. That's something that people also have that chance at the weekend that we're all involved in.
Oh, yes. You're very experiential.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So as we're thinking about our event for April and what is possible, and people are listening, I know that there'll be more people listening as we get closer to April, and we're trying to share out the information, but to realize maybe you are a musician and you want to learn about playing more intuitively. That might be one level of learning. But then we also have you as an audience member. So if you happen to be there and you get to be the recipient to the music and the movement, how can you be transformed by that experience? And then if you're a caregiver, now caregivers, they give so much of themselves, lots of times to their own detriment, because they don't put the mask on first, like you would in an airplane. They often give because that's demanded. And this is also an opportunity for them to start to realize, as a caregiver, I can change this situation from I am helping someone to we are a mutual relationship of healing. And when I'm helping you, I'm also helping myself. And that transformation can also make a difference for how the caregiver doesn't get burnout, or how they're able to actually become more thriving in the way that they do their care. And so there's different ways that people will be able to play with the kinds of ideas we'll be bringing to the table. And the other part I wanted to share a little bit about is the music. As far as the way that we are going to be introducing things, we have different keys, we have different time signatures, we have different ways that we can bring this quality in to the playing. And Colin is now the master, I would say, at how to take someone from the key of C and finding that root and that bass, and then bringing someone up towards their heart. And then for those people that might not be able to find that resonance or that feel in there, to be able to pull them back and forth, like he said, the seaweed in the ocean, and just gently massaging back and forth. And the movement patterns that I can include in that also help people to move forward and backwards. Come a little bit forward, might be too far, move a little bit back. How do you feel? Move a little bit forward. And that's how we get people from being stuck in their one spot to being able to find that way to take that first step and go back to thriving.
It's a bit like the waves coming into the shore as well. Just that, they come in, they go back, they come in, they go back. It's just such a beautiful movement. So perhaps you've got a lake, a loch, sorry, that's a Scottish lake, the sea near you, and you can just visualize being part of that weekend, being part of our weekend, just thinking about that gentle lapping of the waves coming backwards and forwards. It's very therapeutic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so with that, I didn't talk about bioenergetic wellness formula, but I'm just going to suggest to people that would be a part of all the activities going from right now in the organizational part, bringing it forward. And if you're interested in knowing more about that formula, if you go back to episode number 99, that one was just a couple weeks ago that I released that and how that formula works. And that's going to be embedded in all that we're doing. And I just want to draw attention to that. So is there anything, Tom, that you think we missed in our conversation?
No, I think maybe only the element that fun always happens when we pull all these pieces together, and particularly when your own personality and Colin and our other providers, I really got a sense of joy and fun just through the interaction. So that as we get to April, I'm sure that'll be a strong ingredient that people would experience too.
And you haven't had any fun at all this week while you've been exploring?
None.
They both said that with a straight face. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as people are finishing off with this podcast today and thinking about they want to know more, what is the website again, Tom?
It's www.marathonjam.org. O-R-G.
.org. There we go. Thank you.
And donations can be made actually through that, and all of our donations go to good causes. We have that gold seal of approval in our tax exempt, not nonprofit status.
Perfect. So if you've been listening and you think this is something you would like to be contributing to, we would love to have you hit that donation button. And if this is something that you think you want to be a part of, you want to be participating in, then please keep checking back for the posts that are going to go up, because we'll be starting to explain some of the activities as we get closer. And maybe there'll be a few things that'll happen online prior to that. And we would love for you to be able to participate in that and help with the momentum as we get closer to the event. If you want to know more about the Unwinding Trauma program, you can find it on thegreenwellcenter.com. And Colin and I were lucky enough with Tanya Levy, who is also our core producer of this program, to receive an award from CanBeWell on Tuesday night. And so we have a Legacy Leader Award honoring the work that we've done with this program. And we're very excited about seeing how we can shine a light bigger on what we've been able to prepare. If you want to get that, sorry, go ahead.
Congratulations for that.
Thank you. And if you think that the book that I mentioned, BioEnergetic Essentials, is something that you'd like to have in your hands, in your household, you can download a copy of that from CanBeWell.org. And there's a little button that just says free book on the main page, so you can click on that. And if you think that the tea is something that you would like to check out, then you can find that at the Cape Breton Tea Company, capebretontea.ca, and it's known as Honeybee. All right. Thank you both for sharing this time. It's wonderful to have a conversation about a project so vibrant and important.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you,
All
Michelle.
right, safe travels, Colin. I know you're heading off to your next spot. And Tom, I look forward to our next conversation together.
Always.
Take care, everyone.
All
Thank you.
right.
Bye.